Hello, this is Ed with West Coast Mounds. Today we're in for a real treat. We have a two-parter here. We have a resident from Topanga, who is a scientist, will be taking us to some ancient burial mounds on the coast, and we're going to use our instrumentation to see what we can find. Then we're going to go into the village of Topanga. She is going to share with us her near-death experience and talk about how she feels, what it was like, and it's something that you will not want to miss. So stay tuned, subscribe and hit that button, and here we go.
There was one I had based from this book.
Okay.
Where I tried the method in the end of this book, which teaches you how to just astral project.
Uh-huh.
And what ended up happening was I saw this stack of skeletons.
Oh, wow.
Right? And there were the cars going in all three directions. And it was a little creepy at first, but based on the advice of the book, I tried to stay calm and just, try to inquire what was going on.
Uh-huh.
And then I recognized the shape of the traffic. And I realized that it was this ancient burial mound at the end of PCH in Topanga. And after recognizing where they were, or who I was visiting with, I understood, and they were unhappy about all this traffic flowing in all these different directions. Just didn't feel natural, didn't feel good. And so then I presented these spirits with a vision of, there's actually talk of taking Topanga Creek and expanding the effluvian field, or where the water meets the fresh water meets the salt water.
Uh-huh.
And expanding it so that the whole river mouth is naturally draining the water. So I showed him this vision of what it would be like if we moved those lanes of traffic and there was no longer disruption of their resting place.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we kind of had a shared moment of peace together.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. So right now we're in... we just passed the ancient burial grounds, you said?
The ancient burial grounds is this mound here.
This mound, okay.
Yeah, it was discovered in the early 1900s. And I think it's between 10 and 7,000 years old.
Wow.
So that's who I felt was speaking to me when I tried James Mather's method of astral projection.
Okay.
And I'm really curious to see if we can pick up on some of the energy here.
Okay.
From this sacred place.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a fifth generation or fourth generation Los Angelino. My name's Deb Rivera. I'm actually a professor and CEO in biotech. So I tend more towards science, but I've been having weird spiritual encounters ever since a friend of mine advised me on how to help a friend encourage his mother's spirit to go up and leave his daughter alone. And ever since then, I've been having what I consider inexplicable spiritual experiences. And as a scientist, I can only try to imagine this is because space-time folds over on itself.
Okay.
Perhaps time really is not unidirectional. Apparently, if we have bidirectional time, we don't need dark matter, which is just a fudge factor. So I'm willing to go with it and not question it. And I've had some pretty deep and helpful spiritual experiences from, I guess, spirits.
Huh, okay. And then what were some of those? What were it?
Yeah, so I guess I could go in chronological order.
Okay.
The first one was when my friend had coached me with how to help a friend's mother go up. I went to Maine, Portland, Maine,
Okay.
and visited a friend, and I was in his barn where his mother's stuff was stored, and I found his mother's ghost, and it was kind of a visual and visceral perception. I found her, and we embraced, and then as my friend had coached me to do, I let her know that she had in fact passed.
So she didn't realize she was just still there. Interesting.
So that's what my friend coached me to do, and said that that was what she needed help with, and why she was sticking around her granddaughter.
Now, as a scientist, did you believe in ghosts before you?
I would say no.
Okay.
So I went out there thinking it was pretty weird. I wasn't really talking to anybody about what I was going up to do, because they'd be so skeptical. But the experience itself was so profound, and I spoke with the granddaughter about it, and this resonated a lot with her, and she actually came up with the idea that we should all hold hands and laugh, and by so doing we could send her grandmother's spirit up to, I guess, the heavens.
Wow, what an experience.
And then when I came home, I started having more experiences with the ancient folk from where I come.
Okay, and that was all with the ancient tribal people of the area. Right,
so my mother-in-law lives down in Mandeville Canyon, and one night I was sleeping at her place, and I had this weird feeling I couldn't explain. I was sleeping under the oaks, and I got this sensation that I should just lie in a particular fashion, and once I did that, I felt this female spirit take the shape of my body and lie in, like I gave her space in my body. And I woke up the next day and I thought, gee, were the oaks important to the folks that lived here before? And yeah, it was a major source of food.
Okay.
So that year I harvested some oak nuts and I made an offering in the intertribal meeting zone that was just beyond the highway there.
Okay.
So it's like an ancient tribal meeting grounds for all the tribes that were living on this continent, and they've found evidence of the civilizations across the continents, like shells that had to come from the Hopi, for example. So it's not my story, it's not my ancestry, but given that we are here on this intertribal meeting zone, to me it feels I have more permission to commune and speak to these spirits that are not my ancestors.
Okay. And now you told me a story as to how the name of the tribe and how that came about, basically.
Sure. It was a story told to me by a person who is Samala. Apparently, it was more traditional if you came across a new person to ask them what they were doing. So when the Spaniards came across a native person from here, they asked the question, "Who are you?" And the response was, "I'm traveling." Chumash.
Okay, so that's the Chumash Indian tribe, basically, and they're from up north about hour and a half, 2 hours to that's like Buellton area, right? Buellton and Solvang.
Right. So there's the Santa Ynez reservation is up there, and I think as of today, it could be that they were granted the rights to an ocean reserve.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I think it's
just today, huh?
I think it's just today. It's been in the works for years and years. There was some discrepancies with NOAA, NOAA. But I think NOAA, excuse me, I believe today announced that they have the right to this, to preserve the oceans up there. We're going back in.
You're going back in.
Right? So soon after I met the woman, and I did look into the records and found there was a medicine woman, Toy Perina, that was active in the area that my mother-in-law lives, and I thought maybe perhaps that's who had come to visit. A couple weeks later, I was at my mom's house, which is a little bit further down the road, but still in the same tribal lands, and I was lying down to sleep, and I looked over, and in the floral pattern of the bedspread, I could see her lying in the same position she'd asked me to lie in. And it was startling, and I felt the fight or flight response coming, but instead of going into fear, I went into friendship, and I laid into the position she'd taught me to, and by so doing, we were then holding hands, and we slept that way. When I woke up in the morning, she was still there, but I was afraid to look.
Interesting.
And then the week that I moved to Topanga, I was sleeping in my bed, and from the north there rushed in a spirit, another female spirit, but this was not the woman I had previously met, and her presence was questioning who I was and what I was doing there in a rather unfriendly way. And there I could not help but go into a state of fear. And in that moment, the other spirit rushed in from the south and vouched for me, and the other woman went away.
Interesting. That's really... So, yes, that would be awfully strange to wake up and have somebody attack you basically for being in your own home.
I'm always
awake. But you
awake.
were in their home,
I'm always
actually.
awake.
Yeah.
So I was awake. It's in that state right before I fall asleep, or right after I've woken up. And yeah, it was terrifying, and it was, I mean, I acknowledge that I have no right to the land.
Correct, yeah. Because they owned it way before, and then whoever owned it before them even. I mean, you never know.
So then you could fast forward some years, and yeah, I would see spirits walking on the roads, the ancient roads that are up in Topanga, and I just acknowledged them, and I didn't think much of it.
Huh.
But I had a health crisis where a tumor was discovered growing inside my heart, and it was on a Thursday, and a friend of mine, the friend who told me the story, his spirit rushed in. He's living in the spirit realm, and he kind of surrounded my whole body, like to protect me from what was coming, or make sure that I was okay. And later that day, I had a Reiki session. I was just thinking I needed to loosen up a muscle or two in my hip, and I had a visitation from several spirits. And I guess we could talk about that up at the
Yeah, we'll
location.
talk about that up there. Yeah, about this.
Yeah.
That's really a great story.
Shall
Yeah.
we see if we can find some
Yeah,
evidence?
let's do that.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Because I work in the realm of electromagnetism.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. So we'll get some stuff out. We'll get out a few things. We have some apps, some phone apps, plus we have some instrumentation.
Great.
That
Radio frequencies?
Radio frequencies,
Oh, that's
yeah.
exciting, because
Yeah.
that's like
So-
my area of
Yes,
expertise.
okay. So we'll do that right now, and then we'll watch that.
Great.
This is the EMF detector. So, and that if we put it against parts of our body, we're all electric, like your brain. And it's not doing it now. See, we're doing it for the camera. There you go, on the back a little bit. But you were up to red there earlier. There, you're yellow. When it goes up to yellow. There you go. Okay. Now I want to see it on your
My heart?
your heart. There you go. Yeah, see this yellow, and it almost goes up to the orange. There you go. That's red. The orange right there. So it even works there.
So if I jump around for a bit, I kind of get my
Okay.
heart rate going.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Yep. It's a little stronger.
Yep. Ooh.
Wow.
Right, and it makes sense because the heart beats
It's beating, yeah. So it's
are
actually
triggered by electrical
impulses. There we go. Makes sense. Well, that went all the way to red. You got to hit red. So how would it work then if you were just out in the middle of nowhere with no electrical lines?
Oh, should we try it again? Where there's
Yeah,
no power?
where there's
we do have
no,
a power line.
We have a power line right there, so
even-
that's what that's doing.
But even the power line's only getting up to the green.
Yeah.
A little bit yellow.
Take it over to the burial ground to see what happens. over there. And then, what have we, on the Spirit Talker,
Yeah.
we have a bunch of stuff that's hit so far that we just turn this on.
So we got attic thumb screw.
And you said that this used to be housing, right?
It did.
At one point.
Yeah,
So
in the
that could be
70s.
something having to do with the house.
Darkness, he pushed C. I know it watches from the dark. Melissa.
Melissa, interesting. And dude.
Dude.
Hey, dude. Which is very
Apropos.
for the beach.
Right? And as a fourth generation Los Angelina, I say dude a lot.
Yeah, you say dude a lot.
It says, "Did you hear me?
Children want to speak." Oh my God! See how crazy that is. I mean, that only relates to what we were just asked it.
Go closer to the burial mound.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll grab all of our stuff. We'll head over there and see what we can pick up. So going up to red?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing here. Well, we're by the burial grounds, or the this is the hill right here.
Burial mound.
This hill right here,
Yeah,
ancient burial mound.
Yeah. And it's interesting as I go closer to the sand, but sand is an insulator.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's what I would have hoped to see.
Yeah, kind of
Right.
interesting.
Can we
Okay,
go closer?
let's go. Yeah, let's go closer.
Okay, yeah. How about that?
It is crazy. I mean that.
And is it the souls that were buried here, or is it the people that were burying the souls?
It's kind of like a chicken and the egg.
Right?
Yeah. It's just things going crazy.
Do you usually see readings this high?
No, not out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're next to the ocean. I mean, that's all the way up to the max. Brand new battery in that just this morning, so it can't be any malfunction with that. And then it goes to zero, or a little bit, but not much. See, it's more active out by the mound.
How about that?
That's strange, isn't it? So, being a scientist, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm wondering, did the power company bury something here too?
Yeah, there you go.
No, I guess we know they didn't because
They
wouldn't be allowed to
They wouldn't be
do that.
allowed to because of the Coastal Commission does not allow that kind of stuff.
I can't explain it, folks. I mean, I love it, but I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And that's what we were hoping to see.
Exactly.
Ooh,
It really hit, huh?
how about that?
Wow. That's all the way to red.
It's like 4 hertz, pulsing at like 4 hertz. 4 times per
Four,
second.
4 times, yeah.
And then my brain was perhaps on that kind of frequency.
Your brain, your hairs, you got lots of hair. You're up to the yellow.
And is it pulsing too?
It's you just got a little bit of the orange, little pulse.
And you say it's about 4 times per second?
Yeah.
About same frequency?
Well, no, the other one went up to red, so
like
it's
in
one
terms of
less.
How much it's flashing? Is it flashing like 4 times per second?
Probably, yeah. But see, you took it away.
Did it speed up?
No, well, when you were doing it to your brain, the first 3 rows were lit up. The other 2 were not. See, this one, it's being lit up all the way to the 5.
Huh. Can't make
Right
this
there, yeah.
It's a very sacred place.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we headed up to red.
Did.
There you go. Yeah, right there. See? So now when we're facing away from the burial ground, and it's not quite as active, it's still pretty good though. We're on the mound basically. Here we are in downtown Topanga, basically. And it's Pine Circle.
Pine Tree Circle.
Pine Tree Circle.
There used to be a circle of mounds here.
Okay.
For ages, and then it was all knocked down. And they found remains from a city or a town. An ancient town.
Yeah. How neat. Okay, so kind of wanted to get into your, I guess your near-death experience, basically.
Sure.
And tell us a little bit about what happened. Here, let's get you out of the sun.
Okay.
There we go.
I'd say about 3 months ago, I was driving up one of the roads in Topanga, and I had this kind of vision that if I were to fall back, I had all these hands holding me up.
Okay, so you could fall back and you felt these hands.
I felt these hands pushing me up.
Okay.
Fast forward like another month or so from that, maybe 2 months, and I had an MRI for my breast, but what they found was a benign tumor growing in my heart. A couple days later, I was at the cardiologist's office, and he took this incredible video. We will feed it in of my heart, the ultrasound dancing essentially.
So here we are in a very spiritual place too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole canyon is pretty much, but this was this a meeting place too, or just kind of the center of all the action?
I'm not too sure, but I do know that I guess it was like a village.
Okay.
Yes, I do know it was a village up here.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, from more or less the creek and that area around here. Now we're just a green. We haven't seen.
Now we're just green.
Wow.
That's really interesting, isn't it? No burial mound, so. And there's actually more electrical circuits around here where it should be hitting it off.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not even picking up those. And when we're out in the middle of the ocean.
Turn it off, turn it on again.
Yeah, it calms down and just kind of...
Okay. I'm glad you're capturing this, because that's weird.
That is weird, huh?
Yeah, so I had by chance I had a Reiki session.
Okay.
In this office here. And the woman who did the Reiki, Jill Kotu, she called in her spirits and mine. I thought nothing of it. But then they just started showing up. The first two that came in were Rabbi Edgar Magnin. He was a family member of mine. He was a pretty liberal guy, a rabbi, but he was friends with the Dalai Lama and the Pope. And he had a radio show. And he was also a Freemason. So he came into the room. We got a picture for you of him too. And my grandfather, Donald, came in as well. And they were crying. I thought they were overreacting. But they just kept saying, no, no, no. We can't accept this. After the rabbi and my grandfather came in and they were looking over me and not happy with how things were. Again, they were saying, no, no, we can't accept this. And then the woman that I had met at my mother-in-law's place, perhaps it's Toy Purina, I don't know. She comes in, woman of few words. See everybody coming in. Like visually, I could see them coming in. My eyes were shut. She wasn't crying, but she is a woman of few words. Then our family member, Uncle Willie, came through. He's mostly Puerto Rican, another deceased person. And a friend of mine's grandfather came in. He's also Samala, or Chumash. Then there was a very ancient person. I don't know if that person was Taino, so Puerto Rican, or Chumash. It seems they may have shared lineage. So I saw a really interesting, very ancient face, and I was the only person who I had never met before, or who I didn't know. More folks came in, and a friend of mine's mom came in. Actually, also the one that I had met in Maine. So Phyllis came, and then she was crying. She got herself back together. Another friend's mom, Barbara, she came in. She was pretty stoic. But a friend of mine's mother came in and she started crying hysterically, and she couldn't get her act together, and ultimately she had to leave. But something about 12 spirits had come in and they all pushed on my chest to keep my spirit inside. And I didn't, I found it very comforting. I didn't think terribly much of it at the time, just I felt support. Then Jill asked if we could switch to body work, if I could stay in the spirit realm or switch back and forth. I said, no problem, I can switch back and forth, but I never left the spirit realm. Instead, I rested my head in the lap of another deceased friend that had come in, who had taught me about fascia work.
Huh.
So I was sitting with my head in his lap, just a dear friend, and he was patting my head while Jill worked on my hip in preparation for the surgery. After that was done, several living people came in, so just spirits that I knew, including my little boy who's 4 and his friend. Actually, her father had recently passed. It's Joey Capone, December 22 of the year 22. He was killed in Portland, Oregon, as a pedestrian. Joey came in and he apologized because we'd never met before, and he was a little shy about coming in. more or less introduced himself. So the deceased spirits were joined by another 12 living people, and they created like a membrane around my whole body and also around my heart.
Wow.
And then I was told that the session was over, and then one by one I thanked each of the spirits, first the living and then the deceased, that had shown up for me for support. And I gave each one of them a hug, one by one. And at the very end, actually hugged my own spirit. And that's when I burst into tears.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had my surgery, and it went exceedingly well. I never went into a place of fear. I stayed in a place just feeling the overwhelming support that I'd received, both from the living that were surrounding me and also these spirits that had come. And after the surgery, I came back to these offices and I had an acupuncture session. And while I was marinating with a bunch of needles in me, the spirits came back again. And I thanked them one by one.
Oh.
And that time Joey came in, and he and I both embraced, and we both simultaneously hugged and said the word thank you. I was thanking him for his support. He was thanking me for being there for his wife. And she launches her campaign to fight justice, so justice for Joey Capone.org. If you check that out.
Yeah.
So we embraced, said thank you, the spirit Joey and myself. Simultaneously, we both were really moved by the fact that we both said the same thing, as we often are in the physical realm.
Exactly. Wow, isn't that crazy? So you actually felt your spirit trying to exit your body, and these other people trying to keep it in? Is that basically?
You know, I wasn't aware of how close I was to death at that time. I knew how important it was to stay calm. But all of these spirits knew that it was important for me to stay in my body. So I didn't fully understand what was happening as it was happening, but they saw that my spirit was trying to exit. And it was not my time.
Yeah, it was your time to stay here, and look at that, crazy. As we talk about that.
So Kim, the friend's mom who showed up that lost it, I later told this story to another friend of mine, and she said, I know where Kim went. She came to me. And my friend was asleep, and Kim came to her and made her relive this moment. We were on Highway 14, and this really happened, and we spun out and rolled over in a snowstorm. But before that happened, my friend that was driving woke me up so that I would put my seatbelt on. So Kim came to her and made her relive that moment 5 times in a row. Wake me up, put the seatbelt on, crash. Wake me up, put the seatbelt on, crash. 5 times. And at the end of it, she spoke to my friend and told her, we need you. Deb needs you. This is a crisis. Is it my own head that's going? Is it me?
No, it's not
Is
you.
it me?
You put it away and it starts, yeah.
And then a little bit later, Deb had the other friend, her name also is Deb, she had a weird experience where my grandparents came to her that had not been part of the quorum or the gathering of spirits. My grandparents came to her, and my grandfather was a pediatrician. He said to her, this is serious. Deb will be okay, but this is serious. And my friend had never had a vision while awake before. And so she said out loud, am I going crazy? And I had gifted her this little ceramic box made by a master ceramicist and stoneworker, Mervat Essa, E-S-S-A. This little box, and it had this tiny doll's drawer in it. And the drawer, in that moment, slid out and crashed. It didn't break, but it was the tiniest object in the room that could be moved.
Wow.
And my grandmother was historically clairvoyant. And Deb believes that it was my grandmother that moved it in response to the message that her husband was trying to deliver.
Amazing. Amazing. So, how has this changed your outlook on things, or your? I mean, I would think it would have to.
The near-death experience.
Yeah.
Well, before we go there, let's see. Right. So I had an acupuncture session after the surgery at these offices as well, and all of the deceased came back again. And the last person that came through was my friend's grandfather.
Okay.
He was Submala as well. And when he walked through, the small woman whose offices these are, she's tiny. She's like 90 to 100 pounds. But as he walked in and I could see him, I heard these stomping feet of a man.
Huh.
And the feet, it sounded like walked over as he did to the heater, and the heater started to vibrate in this deep bassy way with a repeating frequency, so like and it sounded to me like it's like singing and drumming. And I later asked my friend, his grandson, if in fact that his grandfather had been a singer and dancer, like a singer and drummer as he was, and that is who taught him.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole experience has been humbling. I'm just filled with awe and gratitude, and even like a spiritual connection to the robot, the Da Vinci, that did my surgery. I feel like there were just so many moments that I was receiving these miracles, blessings. Is it part of the space-time continuum folding over? To make it clear that I need to stay here and do good? No, it wasn't that. No, it just happened.
That's funny. That's great.
So I love this thing.
Well, you know what? That one is yours. You're attached to it now, so that you can take that one home with you.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had a thing for magnetism. It's a force that acts at a distance. There's two types of elementary particles in the universe.
Okay.
There's bosons, they call them, which are like light particles. And there's what they call fermions, which are like electrons or matter. So fermions have boundaries, and that's mostly what we're paying attention to. But the bosons prefer to be at the same space. So I see like the spirit realm as the bosons that we don't pay enough attention to.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's neat. And there you have it right there.
Right? So electromagnetic waves are the bosons.
That's right. Beautiful. You shut it off and see, we turn it back on and readjust.
Wow, right?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
How about the weather? Was the spirits okay with us talking about them?
Beautiful.
It was weird, man. It was like talking and it started going.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my mom sent me this picture of my grandfather Don the same day that I saw him in the spirit realm on Thursday, totally out of context. Here's Rabbi Magnan. This is an image that I found of a woman who I guess looks like Toy Purina. I'm not sure if it is her or not. I think it's not. Here's Uncle Willie. And here's the robot.
Oh, there's the robot.
Right? That's the Da Vinci robot.
Da Vinci, yeah.
Right.
That's great. Well, that was an amazing episode. First, I would like to give heartfelt thanks to Deb Rivera for sharing everything with us, and also a thank you to all of your spirit guides who kept her safe during her ordeal. Stay tuned for further adventures. Please hit the subscribe, and we will see you later.